Okay, Anna, you can't wait to be the first to comment, and then we'll go to Kamara.
Do I have to tame my animosity this time?
You do not have to tame anything. You've made this trip all the way here. You have the liberty to speak.
Not participate in some Cambridge gentility.
Let the record show that on Tuesday we're going to be back in Philly, and we're going to do a poem talk on Mending Wall. We've never done a poem talk on Mending Wall.
Where you specifically asked me to tame my animosity, so I'm going to get it out of my system now.
Did I ask you?
You did.
Oh, no.
I know. You did.
No.
I feel like the wall.
Next to the wall.
2 on a side. Just another outdoor game.
We keep the wall between us
and we
as
have,
we go.
as one of our poem talkers that day, is Stephen Metcalf, the host of the Slate Culture Gab Fest, who's a dear friend of ours. He's coming down from upstate New York. And Ahmad Al-Mala, who's a Palestinian-American who's written extensively on walls and barriers and immigration. It should be one hell of a conversation. All right, go ahead, Anna.
Truly don't know how I got involved in that. Okay, only thing I will say, besides that I hate this so much.
What do you, just say briefly what you hate about it so we can move on.
Oh my God, it's so pretentious. Like the keeping of this like ceremony of like we're keeping the wall between us is this like participating in this like shitty old tradition of, you know, making sure that everyone's staying on their side of the wall. Like God forbid Frost should hop over to the other side to help the other dude lift his heavy rocks. I mean, seriously?
So you don't like shitty old traditions? What about old traditions without the shitty? I went to your wedding.
You did.
There were some pretty serious old traditions at that wedding.
Yeah, man.
I wasn't in there saying, it's just another outdoor game, 2 on a side. The father gives away the bride. But no, you actually made something very special out of that. You did, because your father wasn't
dead.
Because your father wasn't there. And I take it back, because in fact you made a whole big, amazing experimental deal out of that.
You picked the wrong tradition to pick
Not
on.
to get too personal here. Okay.
No, this poem it just feels to me like such a labored effort to argue for something that we can let go of.
Okay.
That's all I'll say.
And you'll have more to say on Tuesday. We're going to turn to Kamara and then to Dan Bergman. Kamara, thoughts on Robert Frost's Mending Wall? Remember, I invited some talk about building walls and maybe the Trump wall. You can say anything you want.
Yeah, I think I mostly agree with Anna. I was thinking about the title Mending Wall, like boy breaking glass, and how it doesn't what isn't the mending, is that subjunctive? Is that what is mending? What is the ing again?
It turns out to be an adjective modifying the wall, even though that's very weird. It's really just a verb.
It's kind of a gerund though, right?
It's all kinds of things. It's 3 grammatical things. And the one I think Frost meant initially was, we will mend the wall. We are mending the wall.
Well, you know, thank you for that clarifying. I was just thinking about how specific boy breaking glass felt, temporally and subject-wise, and how, you know, the lack of subject in this title makes me like not want to be involved with whatever is going on.
That is the first time in the history of poetic criticism that Gwendolyn Brooks' Boy Breaking Glass was compared with Robert Frost's Mending Wall, and I think it's a very productive comparison. Yeah. Kamara, you should write it up, particularly because the relationship between Brooks and the boy, which is a little strained generationally, we feel, is a very, very inviting thing. Like, I am going to see this as art. And the relationship of the speaker to the idiot on the neighbor idiot on the other side, the person who really doesn't know anything about what his father's saying means, is an antagonistic, like, I'm glad we're just doing this, but I'm glad he doesn't think too much about it, sort of. So there's quite a different relationship.
Yeah, one feels more like a learning teacher. Not like, Brooks was a teacher, right? And I imagine the speaker being a little, but not in terms of hierarchical.
She's learning about art from this young man.
Yeah, that's. I'd rather be a part of the boy breaking glass conversation.
Yeah, no, I think
than this
I
one,
hear
too.
that. I love the comparison. Very interesting. Dan Bergman.
The picture of his condescending superiority to his neighbor is the real wall.
Facts.
Agreed, Dan.
Dan, you're stealing the show again. Go ahead, Michael. Say that again.
The picture of his condescending superiority to his neighbor is the real wall.
That was such a ModPo thing to do, Dan. You're a graduate of ModPo, as well as soon to be a graduate of, oh, not this university, so we're not at Harvard. Who wants to say what Dan just said? Because I think it's worth saying again. I wonder if Davey
Davey and
Davey
Kiko had
wa-
to go, sorry.
Davey left. Okay. I wonder if Max would try to get us onto this topic. What Dan's move was a meta move. Can we explain? Max, sorry to put you on the spot.
No, no worries. To explain the meta move,
Yeah, what did he do? Dan just changed the wall. You want to hear it again, Max?
yes, please.
The picture of his condescending superiority to his neighbor is the real wall.
Well, Dan's meta move, I would say, in my interpretation, would be to then read the poem as a wall, right?
That's right.
We haven't quite. Was that dinging sound? Did that come through? Was that my correct?
No, that's
answer,
me.
Buzzer?
Yeah, right. Ding! Max is correct. You have correctly interpreted Dan's
Hooray.
correct interpretation of Frost. That's amazing.
Right.
The poem is a wall. The poem is a wall. Here's the most wallish thing to me, Max, Dan, everybody. Here's the most wallish thing. Ready? The iambics are so perfect that they form an impenetrable, for me, an impenetrable way in. Here it is. I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go. I have never, that's 5 lines of iambics. Unrelenting, wallish poetry. It's brilliant, but it is a wall. The wall is the construction of this relationship. The wall itself, if left to its own devices, would fall. Poetry for Frost is the rebuilding of the wall of poetry that keeps us from engaging with someone like the neighbor who doesn't understand his father's saying. But how about if we hung out with the person on the other side of the wall, without a wall, no wall, take the net down, play tennis without a net, which is open poetry, and actually have a conversation which actually listens to this person who may have voted for a person you didn't want him to vote for, but at least let's have the conversation without the wall and without the game and without the unrelenting iambic. Sorry, end of speech. Molly, I think you were next. Do you want to say something? And then Sanjeev, and then Susan.
Sure. I woke up this morning feeling the same way as Anna, and maybe I'm being contrarian, but I feel like we're being really harsh to Robert Frost. And I just wonder if the speaker, it seems like the speaker is telling us that he doesn't want to keep building the wall, and the neighbor is the one that wants the wall. And so why would he go to all this trouble to build this iambic barrier? I don't know. I'm confused.
No, that's an open and generous interpretation, and people have interpreted the poem that way. And we're running out of time, and I don't really want to go too much further into it, but we could do this endlessly. The thing is that you have Frost, then you have Frost creating a Frostian speaker, and the speaker has this ritual that he kind of hates and kind of loves. And in this ritual, there's a third figure, and the third figure is a kind of fiction of the local yokel farmer who doesn't think, but just repairs the wall, even though there's no practical need for it. And that could be the equivalent of art right there. That's the thing you make when you don't have to make it because it has no utility, and it provides a reason, Molly, for us to have a once-a-year conversation as neighbors. And that's the sweetest interpretation, thank you, of this ritual. Rituals are pretty cool. some of us just came through the ritual of Yom Kippur. The whole point of Yom Kippur is to sit there for hours and not eat and ask yourself, why the hell am I doing this? Right? And so that's sort of a crazy Jewish version of Dan Bergman's meta move, if I may. This is going haywire. Sanjeev, one quick thought, and then Susan, and then we're going to go for real quick final words from lots of people. And everybody get ready for real quick final words.
So,
hi, Sanjeev. This
hi.
is your debut behind the mic.
Yeah,
How are you?
good.
We are so grateful to you.
Thank you.
For everything. You're embarrassed by this praise.
Yes,
Yes.
a little bit.
You are amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Sanjeev.
Yeah.
Seriously. How do you have time for this? Do you have a job?
we'll get into that later.
Don't you work all day?
No.
That's the best part.
But anyway, so this poem, I think you started with, since 2016, we haven't discussed much. And I think I tap into something Molly just said about, because he says, I think he's quoting the neighbor saying, good fences make good neighbors.
Right.
And the question to ask when somebody says that is somewhere lost in the middle of the poem there, where he says, before I built a wall, I'd like to know. Right?
Why?
Before I, what, hang on. To what I was walling in or walling out.
Yeah.
So it's not just what you're walling out. What is it you're walling in also? What is
Yes.
it you are boxing yourself into
Yeah.
when you build that wall? So I think
Yes. It's unfair to call this New England Wall, which doesn't serve an agricultural purpose anymore, and compare it to the Berlin Wall, or compare it to a fantasy wall that separates the United States from Mexico. However, lots of people do, because walls are walls, and they are meant to keep something out.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking about Dan's meta point about the poem as a wall, and I'm thinking about writing poetry and how to not write poems that are walls.
How you're going to do that? Is collaboration maybe a possibility? Performance a possibility?
I think both. I was thinking collaboration, performance, and how to make poems open in language too.